Hello everyone, this is the Ultra Dragon from the LEGO Ninjago Legacy series. It is a redesign of the Ultra Dragon from 2012's Epic Dragon Battle set. I call this out as a redesign because the build of this one is completely different from the original. If you want to see that build process, you can check out my build video on my new build channel. You can find the link to that in the pinned comment, the end screen, and also a card on the side of the video. I think one of the most noteworthy differences between the original Ultra Dragon and this one is that this one uses fully brick-built heads with a lot of small pieces, compared to the original one, which relied heavily upon very, very specialized pieces. So basically you'd have a skull and upper jaw. That would be one piece. And then you had a lower jaw, which was another piece. And there wasn't much more to it than that. They were very specialized printed pieces at the time. I personally prefer to build Lego stuff, to be required to build Lego stuff, and not just to bring very large specialized pieces kind of close to each other and then you're done. But there can definitely be drawbacks to going with a brick-built design, as we have seen on some of the fully brick-built dragon designs that LEGO has attempted over the past few years, where they just didn't have a good level of detail, or they looked really, really robotic, even when they were supposed to be going for supposedly in-universe organic dragons. Mystical though they were, still supposed to be organic and living. These have an interesting compromise because these do rely upon some decorated pieces to get some of the finer details in there, such as these stickers that are used up on top, just to introduce some texture. But then the eyes, which are really, really important for the expressions, those are actually printed. That was such a wonderful surprise to me, that those are actually printed pieces. And I believe that they're printed not because they wanted to be kind, but because they were required to use prints there in order to bring pieces directly adjacent to the surfaces there. You actually have a little bit of overlap with this curved kind of fender piece, for example, that would push a sticker out of the way. So per LEGO's internal guidelines, you can't put a sticker against a surface that is going to basically be scraped against to complete the assembly. So all of these eyes are printed, which I think is great. They're a little bit metallic, so they have a little bit of shine, and you can see that there are different colors between the different ones and slightly different designs. Those two right there are actually exactly the same, but they've got the gold, and then they've got the blue, and the blue is used for the ones at the edge. There are some detail differences between these, as you can see, but there are also a lot of similarities. The basic builds are the same, so you don't see as much difference, for example, for the Earth Dragon head as you did in the original. Articulation for these heads is pretty good. I mean, you do have the ability to open each jaw and close it. These are actually stud shooters on the sides that match the elements that go with the heads. Some of them have ear or horn elements that can be brought up and down and angled in and out. You've got a ball joint in the neck itself, right at the head, and then you also have a ratcheting joint that allows you to bring these heads down like so, or bring them up. Behind the necks, where they all kind of come together, you have the throne space, the chair for the Green Ninja to sit there to fly this thing around, and these are intended to be spots where you can put additional minifigures, so you can easily be sitting 3 different figures on there at one time. And if you need to add more, you can add more up here. These are some spots where you can attach figures. You can even attach one right there. So in total, without making any modifications, you can attach 6 figures right up in this section right here, which is a good thing, certainly. This has a carrying handle, which is connected to a mechanism. The previous one had a mechanism also. This is pretty slick the way it works. The entire body is hinged front to back, and what happens is when you pick up the whole thing by the handle, the hinge is activated by gravity, and that in turn, with the help of just a couple of linkages, spreads the wings. So just lifting it up spreads the wings apart. These are vinyl wings with a little bit of Technic work behind here to give them a little bit of skeletal structure. And there you can see the linkages. Pretty straightforward. It's really easy. And what you can do is you can kind of make it flap. I'm not going to be able to show that all that well right here, but you can kind of make it flap by just going up and down. With this, you can even hear the air moving around. So it does actually move some air and kind of gives you the feeling that there is a flying animal in the area. Or you can do it manually, by using two hands. That looks pretty cool, although the legs look pretty stiff. And that's because they are pretty stiff. They're incredibly stiff. They have almost no articulation, which is a huge disappointment to me and completely unexpected. You've got the ankles that can rotate. They have ball joints. Got some toes up front. But then other than that, this is all static. This does not bend at all. Not even on one single axis. So they're always there, which makes it easy to always put this down. It's always ready to land. But I think most people, regardless of age, like to be able to pose things that have limbs. And this doesn't really let you do that except with the heads, the four heads. You can't even really hold this in a wings open position unless you're on a surface that has enough traction to where you can kind of wedge the feet into the surface and keep it bent like this. It always wants to rest. It always wants to bring everything together. You have some articulation of the tail back here, and you can operate that here. Just kind of get that nice little serpentine kind of movement. Just a couple of joints in there to allow that, but I think it looks pretty good. The compromises were made for the sake of durability and stability of the whole thing, and also allowing more proper brick building. I think the original one used a lot of Technic pieces. This does use a fair number of them, but it tries to rely on the system, the brick-based, stud-based system, as much as reasonably possible. And that allows you to get more texture in things. But again, rear legs, same as the front. They're static. They don't move. I just realized that wasn't all the way in. There we go. It doesn't make any difference. Yeah, this is not intended to move at all. Only the feet move. So that is definitely a step back from anything the Lego's ever made that does have any articulation. It's bad enough that they don't have knees on most things these days, often understandably for the sake of stability and durability and ease of play, but this is extra bad and feels just not right to me. Not right at all. Not even being able to rotate their rear legs front and back to allow them to lean back, when it's in flight. That seems like a really big miss to me, which is really unfortunate because otherwise I personally think the dragon looks good and has a very nice build. It went together nicely, has a lot of nice pieces. Having filled in wings, I think, is a good thing when they're done well. I think those are done pretty well. They could be a little bit larger, but overall they're done pretty well. I think the mechanism there is done pretty smoothly and nicely. Really appreciate the printed eyes, but no articulation in the legs. That's just sad. Taking a look at the minifigures, here we have Lloyd and Wu. Now, I personally was not into Ninjago during the Season 1, Season 2, Season 3 era. I have watched the entire series at least a couple of times, but, I don't have a nostalgic attachment to the original designs. But I personally, just looking at these now, like the Wu a lot. I think that torso is done very, very nicely. Has the classic beard piece for him. The Ninja for this Legacy series have one-piece hoods, once again, which is much more convenient than the two-piece ones that we've used a number of times. It's just easier to take that off and to swap heads around. For example, Lloyd gets two faces, derived from the Ninjago movie, as that has become, the new canon. And then there's Wu's face underneath, which I think looks excellent. And this also shows you more of the torso print for him, which was previously obscured by the beard. And of course he gets no alternate face because he doesn't have a hairpiece to cover it up. Lord Garmadon here is basically done as you would expect. You know, just follows what I believe is his most iconic form. And there are no surprises here as far as I can tell. There's no alternate face on that head, unfortunately. The print is just on the lower torso, no print on the upper torso, which has a slightly different texture. And it has that gunmetal gray color. And there's the rest of the main torso print. Lasha on the left and Spida on the right here still appear to have their original specialized headpieces. So the hood or head add-on piece for Lasha there is, I believe, the exact one that they used on the original version of this figure. And similarly the entire head, which is fully specialized for Spida, I believe is the original, including just a reuse and reissue of the original print. At least that's what it looks like to me. Lasha, again on the left, has a new regular minifig head print, and then the torsos are new, the hips are new, and the legs are new, with the hips and legs being shared between the two. I personally feel like these look like they're intended to be more humanoid from the start than the original versions, with the originals looking like they have more serpentine design in their prints. I'm going to show you the rest of that torso print back there too. And then here's the new version of Pythor, who uses the original molds again, but does have new prints for everything. For the torso, for the, what do you call those, legs? Lower body, let's put it that way. And also the head. All the designs are based on the original, but they are redone. So it's not just a reissue. This one, to me, looks better in every way than the original. They've just updated things. Just uses a more modern style with a greater level of detail. And I think the printing is a little bit more sharp as well. I think it's a little bit better produced in general. There's the print on the back of that torso as well. It does not come down into the lower body, but does match the level of detail on the front, I think, which is good. Lastly, they have this little Venomari turret thing that can be angled up and down a little bit so you can shoot at things on the ground and you can shoot at things in the air to some degree. I wish that was able to angle up a little bit more. Just uses two barrels of spring-loaded shooters there. They have one spare bolt included in the set. I like these purple colored serpent heads. They just make for nice decoration. It's a nice, just small terrain emplacement that can do something and can actually interact with the dragon. The dragon can come down and attack this, and this can actually fight back. I'm going to say that in spite of the fact that these legs are just terrible with their lack of articulation, they do at least look okay. They do definitely serve their purpose of holding the thing up and making it easier to play with ultimately. But in spite of their shortcomings, I feel like this is a good set that actually provides good value. Of course, it's not going to even begin to please fans of the original. Fans of the original only want the original and won't accept anything else, no matter what, no matter how good it is. Generally speaking, nostalgia is almost impossible to overcome. And that's okay, because this isn't designed for folks who are fans of Ninjago and younger kids in 2012. This is designed for today's crop of kids, today's main Lego market. And yeah, there will be some overlap as well, but this is mostly made for kids who are relatively new to Ninjago, maybe who have been Ninjago fans for up to 2 years, or maybe are new to it this year. So as a toy, looking at it without nostalgia goggles, without comparing it to anything before, it's actually a good toy. This thing is solid. I don't need to have the original Epic Dragon set to know that it doesn't hold itself together as well as this does. I can just look at the construction and I can see that one has a lot of little things that if you get rough with, will start to pull apart or just go in all sorts of strange directions that are ultimately going to require you to do a whole bunch of reposing if you want it to look good. This is just going to look good no matter what. This can just be grabbed at any time and flown around. It's a good toy. It was enjoyable to put together. The minifig selection, I think, is respectable. And again, the value, I think, is actually quite good, surprisingly good, much better than I expected it to be. You know, the price to part ratio is better than you can ask for today in general. And then my subjective measure of price to volume of stuff checks out with this one, because this is big. I could imagine this being sold realistically today for $100 US. And this is $85 US. So no complaints from me. I wouldn't want to spend $100 on it, but I could see it being a defensible price. But $85, yeah, that's a good value. It's a good toy. It's big. It's impressive. It's fun to play with, in spite of the fact that you can't pose up with the legs. It is nice to be able to just put it down at any time and take it off. I think ultimately the compromises worked out for the better as a toy. If I was designing this, I would not have made those decisions, but it's one of the reasons I'm not a Lego designer. I firmly believe they're better than most of us regular people. They just have a lot of considerations that regular people don't have, and restrictions that we don't have, and things that they have to care about that we don't. And I think they've done a really good job with this, again, in spite of the limitations there. So I came to this expecting it to be good. Once I put it together and realized those legs sucked by my standards, I thought that this was going to turn into a very negative review overall. But on the whole, no, I do recommend this. That's it for my thoughts, though. Of course, you can feel free to disagree with me 100%, and you can feel free to express that disagreement down in the comments with myself and other viewers, just as long as you're respectful and you accept the fact that different people can have different opinions about toys. Thanks for watching. I will talk to you again soon.